Want to make sure that you put the end cap all the way onto the bar. It should slide in all the way to the end stop there. So put it on, slide it all the way in, and then you can go ahead and install it into your truck. So in your truck, you'll have holes in the front, just behind the cab. That's where you want to install your crossbar. You want to install the pin that's on the end of the crossbar into that hole. Alright, the next step is going to be to extend the crossbar into the next hole. And so before you do that, you want to make sure that you have this end cap screwed all the way in. And then you can extend it out. And with that cap screwed all the way in, it'll give you room to thread it out and tighten it to the truck. Then you want to find the farthest hole that you can go back and pin it in with the safety pin. It's important to go back as far as you can so that the threaded cap won't come back and allow everything to fall out. So you want to make sure and go back to the farthest hole you can. And then insert the safety pin, and the bar should be locked into place. And then you can thread it out, tighten it to the truck. And you want to thread it out really tight. You don't want to use tools, you just want to get it as tight as you can with your fingers. So some good finger tension on that. And then feel it and make sure that it's tight in the truck. And that's all you need to do. Now you might want to, if you have to thread this out really far, you find that it's threading for a long time and you feel like you're extending it out all the way, that might indicate that everything is settling in. So go ahead and loosen it up and then go back to your pin and see if you can get it to another hole back, so you can pull the bar out maybe one more hole, reinsert the pin, and that should tighten things up. It's on about every ½ inch, so it's very likely that your first time putting in the bar, the rubber ends and all the parts just kind of settle in a little bit. Okay.
I wanted to do this before you started.
Now we're going to mount up the square rubber spacers onto the bar. So these go in a particular orientation. You'll see that there's a tapered side on the outsides of them. You want the flat side facing up and out, and then the groove sides will be facing down and forward. The wider groove is at the bottom. So the orientation looks like that. And you just slip them on to the bar. Once you get the square rubber spacers spaced out about evenly on the sides of the rack, you can go ahead and slide the rack right on. You probably have to kind of get everything lined up so that it will go on smoothly. The next step will be to put on the quick release clamps. So these go through the top hole. There's a little space back here you can kind of align and feel where the nut is on the back side. Get that lined up and then thread it in. You can pull it away from the truck bed and give yourself a little space so you can turn it, kind of flex the bar just a little bit, tighten it down all the way, and then clamp it down. You don't want these on too tight. If you put them on very tight, if you over tighten them, you can bend the metal back here. So you just want to have some tension on it, just enough so that it grips to the bar. It won't take very much tension. Put the other side in. Okay, to remove, take out both of these quick release pins and slide the rack off. Okay, to lower the arm all the way down in case you have a tonneau cover or you just want to drop it out of sight, you pull this safety pin out, and then you can just drop this arm, lift this piece up, and it'll kind of pull this flat out of the way, and you can put the safety pin here for safekeeping until you're ready to use it again. So to lock your bike into your truck bed, you'll want to put your lock through the hole that's in the center of the head unit of the rack. It goes through the top, then through the bottom hole, and then put on the lock. Okay, when installing a bike into the rack, you can see here that I'm putting this bike in and it's not actually going all the way down into the bottom wheel chock. You want to make sure it settles all the way into the bottom wheel chock, that it's sitting against the roller back here, and that the top wheel chock is on the tire. So we're going to have to lower this one, the slide unit, back a little bit so that the tire can settle in. So that position looks good. We have the tire in the wheel chock now. There's a little bit of space to the front of the head unit here on the rack. And then when we bring the arm down, it looks like it sits pretty good on the tire. So the next thing is when you go to clamp it, you don't want to have to force it down, and right now it's a little bit too tight. So I have to push it down way too hard. I don't want to damage my wheel. I don't want to damage the rack. So I want to loosen it up just a little bit. I find that if you have about 30 pounds of pressure, 25 to 30 pounds of pressure in your tire, you should be okay with the rack being, with a mountain bike tire like this. I'll typically line the closure unit or the handle, line it up with the bars or the rails here. When those two are in line, it's usually about right to clamp it down. So it's still a little tight. Loosen it up a little more. Now it's a little too loose. Once you get it set up, you'll be all set for that bike. So that's a good tight fit right there. It's locked in really firm. So now it'll be all set every time. When you clamp the wheel down into the bike rack, you'll notice that this wheel slightly turns. That's just allowing for the wheel to settle into the rack. That's the whole purpose of this wheel, is just to barely rotate so that as the pressure is put on the tire, it doesn't get hung up on here, but it kind of drives it into the bike rack. I also want to shake the bike a little bit, just make sure that it's settled in, and then I'm ready to go. After your bikes are mounted into your pickup, you'll want to shut your tailgate. If you have a short bed pickup, like in the case of this one, use a bed extender. This particular bed extender works great. There's a lot of different types of bed extenders on the market that can help secure your cargo.